Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation. Ring, stand for the pledge.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for another day in our city here. We appreciate you looking after us in these storms. Lord, many things on our mind as we gather tonight. We would be remiss not to mention the families of those that were killed and murdered in Florida at the school shooting, and what an awful thing for a community and for a nation and a state to go through. And we do pray for those families, as many are having their funerals and final goodbyes this week. We just continue to uphold them and pray for wisdom for our leaders in all areas, that they could lead well and comfort with the words they speak. We ask your blessing on our meeting tonight. We thank you we can meet in freedom, and thank you for this time we have. Thank you for our guests here tonight as we honor, and then we also just ask for wisdom as we deliberate. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 6, 2018, and the minutes of the special meeting for working session held on February 6, 2018, be approved as printed.
Second, please. Second. Commissioner Decker. Discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Decker.
Aye.
Densberger.
Aye.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Call.
Aye.
Mayor Mingus.
Aye.
All present, voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Communications, I turn over to Chief Beck.
Thank you. Tonight we would like to recognize a couple of our telecommunicators for the city. The first one is actually for an incident that happened in April 2017. We had recognized several of our fire department members previously for their actions. However, I'm embarrassed to say, as an oversight on our part, we missed Jason at that time, so in no way diminishes his actions on that day. But Jason, would you join me up here, please? So in April 2017, Jason was a fairly new dispatcher. Had been working on your own for how long?
About 3 months.
Okay, so all the telecommunicators go through a fairly lengthy process of training, and so for about 3 months have been working on his own. And this day in April 17, he received a call for a man in cardiac arrest, which was the first that he had received while being on his own. He quickly recognized that this gentleman was in cardiac arrest and was able to give CPR instructions to family members who were able to then to act to give CPR to this is actually an adult son who gave CPR to his father. And if you listen to the 911 call, it's pretty emotional. Jason getting from the point to telling them what they mechanically needed to do to, by the time our crews were on scene, really encouraging this son and keeping him going, because the son was extremely just exhausted from doing CPR on his dad. And in the end, the patient made a full recovery. Was able to walk out of the hospital completely neurologically intact, and the job that our dispatchers do to help bystanders before our rescuers can get there is a vital link in that chain to survival. So today we would like to award Jason with the East Peoria Fire Department Life Saving Award for his actions, which directly resulted in saving the life of a man in cardiac arrest. On April 13th, 2017, Jason quickly recognized that the man was in cardiac arrest and provided CPR instructions to a family member on scene. Jason provided encouragement and reassurance when the patient's son was growing tired. His actions provided a vital link in the chain of survival and were crucial to the man's survival and recovery. Presented February 20th, 2018, Jason Potter.
Good job, Jason.
And I'll turn over to Chief Ganschow for the second.
Thank you. Congratulations to Jason. What an awesome job. But I want to also present another award, which I think demonstrates one of the best things about whether it's law enforcement, fire service, telecommunicators, none of us ever really work in a vacuum. None of us ever really work alone. Everything we do is a team effort, and we can see from this example and from countless other examples, when we work as a team, good things happen. We're very proud of our dispatch center and our dispatchers. They do an amazing job, and in reality, they all deserve great recognition. This award goes to our telecommunicator, Amy Charlton. Amy, could you join me, please? Amy was the other dispatcher in the room during Jason's call. Amy is a veteran dispatcher, a trainer for the department, and I think this really exemplifies the team aspect of the job, because Amy was there and was able to assume all the other duties in that room on a very busy shift. It gave Jason the opportunity to concentrate solely on the call that he was on. So the East Peoria Police Department wants to award this certificate of recognition to Amy Charlton for recognition of her performance on April 13, 2017 on a cardiac arrest call. During this event, Amy assumed all the additional duties from the primary dispatcher on the call, in addition to those required of her own position, allowing her partner to direct all of his attention to successful guidance and resuscitation efforts. The teamwork and professionalism exhibited by Amy during this incident played a vital role in the survival of the patient. Thank you, Amy.
Good job. Good job. Makes you really proud, doesn't it, Chiefs? Really does. Commissioners. All right. Any other communication?
No other communications.
Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on an agenda item? Come forward. Please state your name, sir.
My name is Jack Teplitz. I'm an attorney from Peoria, and I'm here representing the proposed use, the Jeff Kaufman, and the proposed use at 251 Spencer Street. I don't know whether you want me to address you now or when the agenda item is.
This is fine, sir.
Okay, thank you. We passed out tonight on your desks a little sort of bullet point of what I think are some of the salient issues or points that we want to make. We're proposing the use of the property to be portable, for storage of portable restrooms. The property is zoned M2, I believe. And so it is industrial, effectively, manufacturing or industrial in use. Just so everybody would understand, there is no disposal. We're not proposing to dispose of any sewage or noxious material on site. The way it works is they actually, wherever the porta potties are, at some event, at somebody's or construction site or whatever, they actually go out and they empty the porta potty at that site. So when they come back to this site, this property, the porta potties are empty. And they immediately then move them inside the building that's there, and they clean them inside and out. And so when they're stored on the property, they're totally clean. So there's no leaks or spills, there's no odor or anything like that that could impact any of the surrounding property owners. The property will be screened. We've agreed. Our plan is and we've attached a picture of the screening. As you can see, it's pretty solid. It does have little pinholes in it, or holes in it, so the wind can go through it, but basically you can't visually see through it, and that would be put up on the existing chain link fence that's there on all four sides in terms of screening off what's stored there. In terms of traffic, Mr. Kaufman has agreed that all of the traffic will come on Spencer Street and get to the site from Spencer into eventually onto Chicago by going, through there, and then so it will not drive through the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood at all, either coming or going. there will be no trucks of any kind from the property that will go through the neighborhood. Where the vehicles will be on site, either employees parking or where they're utilizing them for the trucks to drop off or pick up, that whole area where the vehicles operate will be paved. The property currently is not paved at all. So that will be a significant improvement, including, and I noticed in the staff report, we'll have the striped parking spaces and the driveway to Chicago Street will be paved too. So there should be no dust or anything generated as a result of vehicle operation. We did contact the neighbors directly across the street from the property on Fisher. There are 4 residences there, and we've attached basically where they've signed and said that they support our requests. And so they have no objections to what's being requested. We also attached a petition that was submitted at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting where at best, and I didn't count every one of them, but it looked like in excess of 60 signatures of people who were supportive of the request that's being made to you. So the last thing that we did hand out, well, other than we did hand out a couple of aerial overheads of where the property is so you can see it in relation to the area. We did do a bigger map that showing where the property is in relation to the neighborhood. And the last thing that we handed out is that there is a letter from Timothy Lucky, he's the mayor of the village of Curran, where, I'm just about done, where Mr. Kaufman operates his currently operating out of his business and will continue to operate. That's the home office of the business. And that they've been doing that for 8 years and have never had any complaints about his operation. We did go to the neighborhood meeting and had, I thought, a very good meeting. And I think that he's looking to be a good neighbor to the neighborhood and recognizes, the issues that exist there, so he needs to operate this property in an appropriate manner. And with that, we hopefully, we request that you approve that.
Thank you, sir, very much. I commend you for the job you did with the neighbors and the homework you did. Anybody else on an agenda item? Good to see you, Bob.
Thanks. I know what I say ain't gonna sway nobody's mind, but I went through the gentleman's plant down there, if you want to call it a plant, the facility. I made 2 trips. His hired man took all the time that he needed to take to explain everything to me and how it was done. And of course, I live on the other end of the Bottoms, and that's from where that's at. So maybe I'm talking out of turn, but if I lived in one of the houses on Fisher, especially if he puts that around here, I personally wouldn't have a problem with him. And if I was sitting where one of you gentlemen are, I'd have to vote yes. The only thing I hope is for the people in that end of the Bottoms, he don't fill it full of barking guard dogs. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else? All right, seeing no one else, consent agenda, I believe we're in agreement. Commissioner Dinsberger, turn it over to you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a consent agenda consisting of items numbered 1 through 6 as listed on the agenda for this meeting to be considered by omnibus vote.
Second, please. Second. Commissioner Call, discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
In which case, Mr. Mayor, I move you that items numbered 1 through 6 listed on the consent agenda be hereby approved and adopted. The items numbered 2 through 6, having been read once by their title, having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call, discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Your Honor, continuing on, we'll start with a few second readings. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-104 hereto attached, a resolution to approve abating and eliminating various tax levies for water and sewer bond issues, tax increment financing bond issues, and development bond issues be hereby approved, and that this Resolution Number 1718-104, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Happily, this is something that we do each year. These bonds were sold using property taxes as the backing. Thankfully, the revenues generated by water and sewer make the payments, so by passing this each year, it does not land on the property tax bill.
Well said. Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4371, hereto attached, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 3 of the East Peoria, Illinois City Code Liquor Control Regulations to change the provisions regarding curbside service and liquor license renewals, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, this is a second reading. Basically, this is a recognition that a service being offered by many large retailers is to basically place your order ahead generally by internet for groceries and such. Alcohol may be a part of that order, and this allows that to be delivered just simply as part of the order. It does expressly forbid drive-through liquor sales. So basically, it just allows liquor to be dispensed as part of an overall order. Has to be a large retailer. I believe 50,000 square feet is the minimum.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And next, Your Honor, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-107, hereto attached, a resolution approving the East Peoria Four Corners Parking and Traffic Study be hereby approved, and that this resolution 1718-107, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a overall study outlining some proposals. It allows, by basically approving and accepting this study, it allows the city to go forward with and seek grants or other funding mechanisms. It does not bind the city in any way to implement all or any part of this necessarily, but it does give us options moving forward. So,
Other discussion, please. Commissioner Call.
The only thing, I didn't support it 2 weeks ago, I won't support it this evening. I personally have a couple of concerns with things that are included in the study, so I will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
No.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
4 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you.
next, Your Honor, I have the item that Mr. Teplitz was referring to, I believe. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4345, hereto attached, an ordinance authorizing a special use, authorizing a special use for property located at 251 Spencer Street in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4345 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Morgan, if you would, please.
Whereas Jeffrey Kaufman of Kaufman Consulting, Inc., the petitioner, has petitioned for a special use to allow the outdoor storage of portable toilets and related materials and equipment on property zoned as M2 Manufacturing District General, which property is shown and described at Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, which property as so described is hereinafter referred to as the property. And whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special use, subject to certain conditions hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1 is special use to allow the outdoor storage of portable toilets and related materials and equipment on the property is hereby approved. Section 2, the establishment and continuation of the special use hereby authorizes contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the city code and with the following special conditions. 1, petitioner shall establish the special use authorized by this ordinance, including the improvements hereinafter prescribed in accordance with the site plan prepared by the petitioner and approved by the Director of Planning and Community Development. 2, petitioner shall screen the property on all 4 sides with a substantially solid fence having a height of not less than the height of the tallest items stored in the outdoor storage area. Petitioner shall, with the approval of the Director, utilize a flexible mesh screening material. All screening shall be maintained in good condition without tears or other gaps. 3, all parking areas, driveways, and other areas where vehicles travel on the property shall be paved with a permanent all-weather surface in accordance with the requirements of the city code. A parking area for employees adjacent to the building on the property shall be paved and striped. Petitioner shall complete all paving required by this condition no later than June 1st, 2018. 4, vehicular access to the property shall be allowed only from Spencer Street and not from Fisher Street at the location indicated on the site plan. 5, the portion of the property fronting on Fisher Street shall be enhanced with arbor vitae or other evergreen deemed acceptable by the Director in accordance with the site plan. The evergreen shall be of sufficient size to equal or exceed the height of the screening fence within 3 years. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing conditions or with any provisions of the city code applicable to the property or its use, City Council may, after providing reasonable notice and opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special use hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk, and said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that part into our conflict with any other ordinance. In the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. Mr. Livingston and I have discussed this project several times over the last couple of months. Mr. Teplitz reached out to me, which I appreciate. I have to say this, when I first heard about this, I was far from excited with the proposal. This is not really the sort of use that we would hope for, because it is proximate to residential. However, it is also proximate to our own wastewater treatment plant. I visited the area in speaking with Mr. Teplitz. I think Mr. Kaufman has taken at every turn, has been cooperative, has gone somewhat out of his way to make every accommodation to make this use the least intrusive to the area that he possibly could. He's complied with all requests for screening, landscaping, paving, cleaning, and even the general operation of the facility. And I think as evidenced here this evening and by both comment and the signatures, I think he's reached out to the community in the neighborhood, and if not gotten approval, certainly gotten an understanding. Again, it's not exactly the use I would hope for, but I think this is a model of how to go about getting a special use. So, gentlemen, I'll be supporting it.
Other discussion, please.
Just a question on Dennis. How far is this from our wastewater? Commissioner may mention this is near our wastewater plant number 1.
I think it's about 3 blocks.
About 3 blocks, and that's what I was thinking. It's in the same neighborhood, and as the one thing about this, that the homework and all the information provided to us is that this facility will not be used to dispose of the content, the sewage itself. Rather, it be a place to clean an empty portable restroom and then hold it and then distribute it back to the customers you have. So, but personally, I appreciate and I echo much probably all of what Commissioner Dinsberger said. As far as trying to work this out and make it work, I know I commented to some that there's been proposals for this area for this kind of business goes back well over 10 years before I was ever here. I know I attended a city council meeting and they were discussing it, and it never happened. I don't know all the details other than the fact they didn't do it. But I think with what I see here and the way the site, just the organization, the business-like approach to it, I can support this and feel good about it and let the owners have a chance to prove themselves. And I suppose it also provides jobs too. I mean, as well. So it provides a service that we all need. We appreciate these things, the 4th of July, and et cetera. And so this is it's close to our plant. You're doing the right thing and managing it well, and it's up to you to prove yourself in managing it. But I agree, you've done a good job for documenting a special use and making yourself a worthy candidate for that, and I will support that.
Thank you. Other comments?
I have a couple things. First of all, I probably should know this by now, but I just want to make sure this will be a one reading item, correct?
Yes.
I have some concerns about this item. First of all, the cart got before the horse a bit. I mean, it's been there a while, long before we had this meeting. We should have had this meeting before. That concerned me, first off. Second, obviously, there are some concerns in the neighborhood. Not just, I don't want it in my neighborhood, but a concern that I would have if it were in my neighborhood is a public health issue. Obviously, they are emptied before they're there, but they're not cleaned. And I asked the question about if this was a one reading or a two reading item, because I still have some questions, and tonight, I am not blaming anyone, but I just don't have those questions answered. One, would the porta potties ever sit outside dirty prior to being cleaned, whether it's an hour, a day, a month, whatever? Because, as you all know, there are mice and rats and mosquitoes and everything else in neighborhoods that can go from a place like that to a neighbor. And obviously there are kids or adults that are out subject to it. Not a big concern, but it is an issue that I've struggled with. It will be difficult to enforce. Obviously, I'm happy about the screening and the live vegetation that would be around it, but it would be difficult to enforce what would be going on in there since it is screened. It's not like our code enforcement people would just walk in to a screened area and see how things are going. I have heard good things about you, sir, and I do believe that you are a man of your word and you would do what you say. But I still have some concerns. Seeing the list of people tonight that are in support of this, the reason I ask if it was a one or two reading issue is the thought of, I wouldn't mind talking to all of them. And if they are okay with it, then I would be okay with it. But I personally have a health concern, and for that I will be voting no.
Commissioner Cole.
Well, I must say, I was a skeptic at first. Quite honestly, I was pushing Ty some time ago when it first came to my attention that these were being stored on the property. I agree with Commissioner Decker in stating that the cart is before the horse. With that being said, I commend Mr. Kaufman and Mr. Teplitz. They did indeed attend the neighborhood meeting, go into the hornet's nest as they were expecting. It didn't turn out to be a hornet's nest after all. But to commend them from the standpoint, not only did they attend the meeting, they brought with them information and made sure they had enough information to hand out to anybody that was in attendance, willing to answer all the questions, provided all the information. I find Mr. Kaufman to be a man of integrity. He made it clear that he wants to invest in this community by purchasing the property, making the improvements that have been listed in the ordinance. He actually brought a sample of the screening for the residents to feel, touch, look. The picture doesn't really do it justice. So I greatly appreciate it. They stayed until the very end and answered everything, talked to whoever wanted to speak to them. And I I think that he'll make a great attribute, pardon me, been a long day for me, to the community. I appreciate his willingness to be a part of the community, which he did. He reached out to a couple groups that were present to express his desire to be a part of the community in the sense that not just going to set up shop and then we never see him again. So I appreciate it. I will be supporting this tonight.
I also commend the neighbors. It's unusual. I get communication where somebody calls me and says, I think that this is okay. I was totally against this, but I'm not totally against it now, and that did happen, so I commend you for having an open mind. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
No.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Migas?
Aye.
I have 4 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Templitz, for reaching out. I appreciate it. Next, Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4375 here to attach, an ordinance authorizing a special use for property located at 235 East Washington Street in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4375 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Morgan, you're up.
Morgan.
Whereas A.H. Elijah of ATS Communications Network Corporation, the petitioner has petitioned for a special use to allow for an outdoor storage lot on property zoned as B3 Business Service District located at 235 East Washington Street. Property is shown and described at Exhibit A attached here to and incorporated herein by reference. Property is as so described as hereinafter referred to as the property. Whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special use subject to certain conditions hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, special use to allow an outdoor storage lot on the property is hereby approved. Section 2, the establishment and continuation of the special use hereby authorizes contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the City Code and the following special conditions. 1, petitioner shall establish the special use authorized by this ordinance, including the improvements hereinafter prescribed in accordance with the site plan prepared by the petitioner and approved by the Director of Planning and Community Development. 2, the outdoor storage lot may be utilized only for the storage of rental vehicles and trailers. 3, not more than 3 rental vehicles, trailers may be present on the property at any one time. 4, rental vehicles and trailers shall be stored on that portion of the property closest to McKinley Street. 5, within 120 days after approval of this ordinance, the petitioner shall restripe the parking lot on the property and shall include 2 handicap parking spaces meeting the requirements of the Illinois Accessibility Code. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing conditions or with any provisions of the city code applicable to the property or its use, City Council may, after providing reasonable notice and an opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special use hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk, and said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, subject as to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance. In the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. Again, this will allow for the storage of up to 3 rental vehicles or trailers. They will not be fronting East Washington Street. They will be on the back part of the property. This is the old bank building, correct? Seems like a reasonable use to me and of minor intrusion.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Migas?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Morgan loaded me up tonight, but but we're even because she's got a bunch of reading at length to do. So here we go again. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4376 here to attach, an ordinance authorizing a special use for property located at 701 East Muller in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4376 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Once again, Morgan.
Whereas Joel Griffin, the petitioner, has petitioned for a special use to allow the expansion of an existing accessory structure to a size exceeding the limitation imposed by Section 5-6-3 of the zoning code on property zoned as R2 one-family dwelling district located at 701 East Muller, which property is shown and described at Exhibit A attached here to and incorporated herein by reference, which property is so described is hereinafter referred to as the property. And whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special use, subject to certain conditions hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1 is special use to allow the expansion of an existing accessory structure to a size exceeding the limitation imposed by Section 5-6-3 of the zoning code on the property is hereby approved. Section 3, the establishment and continuation of the special use hereby authorized is contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the city code and the following special conditions. 1, petitioner shall establish the special use authorized by this ordinance, including the improvements hereinafter prescribed in accordance with the site plan prepared by the petitioner and approved by the Director of Planning and Community Development. 2, the total area of the accessory building after completion of the expansion shall not exceed 1,884 square feet. 3, the siding and roofing materials on the expanded accessory structure shall be consistent with siding and roofing materials on the existing structure prior to expansion. 4, all driveways accessing the expanded accessory structure in all areas on the property where vehicles are parked shall be paved with an all-weather surface in accordance with the requirements of the city code. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing conditions or with any provisions of the city code applicable to the property or its use, City Council may, after providing reasonable notice and an opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special use hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk. Said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance, and in the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. This will provide for the resident to construct what is essentially a second garage. It will allow for the inside storage of some materials that have previously been stored outside and have from time to time been an issue, I believe, with some of the neighbors. It did pass the ZBA on a 7-0 vote, and it seems to be well supported. Anything else, Ty?
Just so we're clear, the special use is for a building that's in excess of 1,250 square feet. So that's what the request is for, but it will be in character with the existing garage.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
One more special use. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4377 hereto attached, an ordinance authorizing a special use for property located at the intersection of Farmdale Road and Larson Road in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, be read at length by the clerk, and then said ordinance number 4377 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker?
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Your turn, Morgan.
All right. Whereas Hume and MV Residential Development LLC, the petitioner, has petitioned for a special use to allow the siting of residential facilities having more than 25 units on property zoned as B3 Business Service District located at the intersection of Farmdale Road and Larson Road, which property is shown and described as Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, which property as so described is hereinafter referred to as the property. Whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special use, subject to certain conditions hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1 is special use to allow the siting of residential facilities having more than 25 units on the property is hereby approved. Section 2, the establishment and continuation of the special use hereby authorized is contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the city code and the following special conditions. 1, petitioner shall establish the special use authorized by this ordinance, including the improvements hereinafter prescribed, in accordance with the site plan prepared by the petitioner and approved by the Director of Planning and Community Development. 2, if deemed feasible by the director after further analysis, petitioner shall provide a second entrance to the property at a location approved by the director. 3, petitioner shall install a sidewalk along the entire frontage of the property. 4, petitioner shall landscape the property in accordance with the city code. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing conditions or with any provisions of the city code applicable to the property or its use, the city council may, after providing reasonable notice and an opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special use hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk. Said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that parties are in conflict with any other ordinance. In the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, 10-day period of publication and manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. This special use provides for the development of a 56-unit apartment complex, 3-story building. Will be located across from CVS, the new Hucks, and next to Rock Ice Cream and Golf. It backs up to the railroad right-of-way. It will provide for both 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, and there is adequate parking attached. It was passed by the ZB on a 7-0 vote.
Other discussion?
I guess my question would be, do we know what the plans are as far as the housing development? I understand
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Do we know what the plans are as far as the housing development? I know it's multifamily, it says it's 56 units. Do we know what type?
As far as, I mean, it's 2- and 3-bedroom unit mix.
Okay. Similar, I guess, no different than questioning what we're putting down here.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we do have a representative here from the Miller Valentine that could speak to this. Mr. Ahn is here, and he could talk a little more about the nature of the development.
Can you come to the, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. Happy to answer any questions you have. So I'm still not quite sure what the question is.
Well, I suppose, I guess my question, and maybe this isn't the proper time to be asking it, but I mean, we're facing special use for this property to include multi-family housing. We just had a similar project that didn't move forward that was going to be located down in the Levy District for a couple of different reasons. I knew what those plans were, and I guess I'm just looking at a special use, and I don't, what's the development plan?
As far as the funding mechanism, you're asking if it's going to be a tax credit project, the mixed income?
Correct.
Yeah, and I believe Hume can speak to that.
Yeah, so we are applying for funding from the state low-income housing tax credit, and this will be for workforce housing.
Okay.
When you say workforce housing, what do you mean by that?
It'll be for families who have a lower income, who have, typically they'll have, they're working families often, they're people who are just entering the workforce.
Ty, as far as the process now, what that has to be approved later on as far as the actual construction, the actual plans?
Yeah, there's still a permitting phase. Right now, all they're requesting is zoning approval for the particular area. They still have to go through a process with IDA as far as the review that they've gone through an initial phase. And there's another phase that's coming up that requires that they have to demonstrate they have appropriate zoning for the site. And so the decision here was whether you rezone it to a multifamily or you leave it as a commercial property with a special use, and that's the request that's being made. Is it?
So let's come before the council again for a vote?
I'm not aware of any particular trip points that would be required. I know that it does have to come through for permitting approval, but I'm not aware of any other council review that's required at this point. I don't know if you can speak to that, if there's any other public body input.
Not to my knowledge, not for the zoning.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I don't know if this is what some people are wondering or not. the intention is to have families live here who are families. They work for a living, they pay sales tax, they pay other taxes, they buy goods, and low crime. I mean, is that your intention?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'll just say, I see no problem with this. This is the type of people that live in East Peoria. We have very wealthy people live in East Peoria. We have very poor people live in East Peoria. And I think this is from what I've seen, a good project.
I don't have a problem with that either. What I do have a problem with, though, is that it seems we usually have working sessions, we usually have a whole lot of information come forward before we vote on something like this, and that just hasn't been the case.
Well, in previous projects, such as this, Your Honor, there was a ask of the city for some participation, and there is none on this project beyond simply the zoning. It's simply a private developer doing just that. It is workforce housing. It is not, I think what everyone's getting at here, it is not subsidized housing, it is workforce housing. Is that a fair characterization?
It is workforce housing, and we're using some public funding to finance it.
I'll just say this, I mean, this is nothing against you, sir, but quite honestly, there's nothing worse than showing up at a meeting. This is not your fault. Showing up at a meeting, and I'm being asked to support or not support something that I know nothing about other than what's in the language, which was read at length. I'm not going to support it. I know nothing about this. I like to do my homework. I don't like stuff dropped in my lap. I'm not discounting. You might have a absolutely phenomenal project that you're going to propose to put here. I don't know that. So I'm not supporting it.
Yes, Commissioner Jeffers.
I think Commissioner Dinsberger made the point that some of the previous residential areas we've been asked as a city, and we have tried to promote residential growth here in East Peoria. I mean, that has been coming through for years. It actually been promoted at really, we at the city, as we own property, we would make more money selling it for a commercial development versus residential, but we've not got there yet with city property. This is a private funded, now you may seek funding from your sources, but it's not the city, we're not the landlord here. And, we have checks and balances with ZBA, we have checks and balances here, and, it's 56, it's a sizable unit, and as far as our codes, we know if it's built, it'll be built to code, and it'll be built out accordingly. We have all kinds of checks and balances there, and I think to have affordable housing for people that work and have young children, if that's who chooses to live here, is a great option. Not everyone has $100,000 or $200,000 to put down to buy their own home. And I think the location here of this property and where it's at is prime. And I'm glad to see, it's zoned commercial now, correct, Commissioner Dinsberger?
Pardon me?
It's got a commercial zoning now.
Yes, I believe so.
And it would retain that commercial zoning.
Excuse me?
We're not rezoning the property, it's retaining the commercial zoning, and it's a special use.
Special use will allow multifamily, and I know has proposed at this point 56 units. So I think the information there is pretty basic for us. I don't think we need a micromanagement. We have code and all of our et cetera to put in force here. So I don't have a problem with supporting this, and if you're successful with your funding, you'll go forward. If not, then I guess you won't. But I'd like to give them the opportunity to continue on. It's pretty tough to develop this without having approval to proceed and have that chance to know that if you get everything lined up, that it can go. So which comes first? And I think government should stay out of the way as much as possible of private business within our checks and balances, and I think we proved that. And I'm okay with going with a yes on this tonight.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, people watching at home, this was not dropped on our laps tonight. We've had this agenda since Friday. The knowledge that I've gained about this is that it is a private investor with a piece of property that wants to build apartments for people who, I think a good description of it would be, someone would be a department store manager of like Kohl's or something. Maybe a dual income household, maybe a single parent, I'm not sure. But I don't think, and I think maybe this is a concern, I don't think this is like the quote-unquote projects type facility. I think this is what East Peoria is about. When I first looked at this on Friday, I was eager to see development coming in this area. It just makes me wish we had a grocery store in that area. We used to, and I think this would be an even stronger argument for that in the future. So this is something that this is their property, and that's, I think, how I saw it differently, that the project before came to the city and was essentially asking the city for the property to be given to them, if I remember correctly. And that's the difference. This is their property. I've heard nothing to think that this is anything negative, so I'm eager to support it.
What's your build-out going to be on this as far as dollars? How much?
I think the construction budget will definitely be over 10 million. I think 10 to 15 million for construction.
Will this be, go on the rolls as far as property tax then?
Yeah, yes, it will, yes.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
No.
Mayor Mingus?
Abstain.
3 ayes, 1 no, and 1 abstention, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4374, hereto attached, an ordinance adding a provision to the East Peoria City Code pertaining to liability insurance and hold harmless requirements for contractors, be accepted on its first reading, as read by its title, and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you. Currently, there is a requirement on large projects for work being done for the city that the contractor provide adequate liability insurance, hold harmless, to basically cover themselves, their crew, and their work. This ordinance would then extend that requirement to smaller providers, basically just protects the city for the work they're doing. Anything else, Mr. Reader?
That's correct. It protects the city for what they're doing. Also, on the smaller contractors for smaller jobs, there's an ability built in here to allow department heads or commissioners, depending on the size, to reduce the amount of insurance, the requirement on those small jobs. So this is really protecting the city, and we saw this as a gap in our policies.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The next item, Your Honor, Resolution Number 1718-109, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria that Resolution Number 1718-109, hereto attached, a resolution accepting the low bid for the purchase of 2 GTAC V110G3 convertible laptop computers with listed accessories for Public Works Street Foreman from SHI International Corp. for $8,069.44 be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-109 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Commissioner. These were put out for bid to 4 different vendors. We received 3 bids back, this being the low and best bid.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-112, hereto attached, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 10 desktops, 5 tablets, 10 monitors, and associated computer equipment to upgrade outdated computer equipment throughout the city from PTC Select in the amount of $19,435 be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-112 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, as described, this is for computer equipment to be upgraded. We have a normal replacement schedule for our IT equipment. Again, we received bids from four vendors, and PTC Select was the low bid.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1718-108, hereto attached, a resolution authorizing a $5,000 contribution for Illinois High School Association March Madness Tournament experience from our hotel motel tax funds be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-108 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is an item that we have done for the past several years. This $5,000, as described, goes to the IHSA to help support their March Madness. I will say that I think this is a relationship donation to the IHSA, as East Peoria in particular, and the Peoria area in general benefits from several IHSA and IESA tournaments, whether it be state tournaments, sectionals, and so forth. It brings a lot of people into our community, staying in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, and I think it's a good value to support that relationship.
Other discussion?
Mayor, I look forward to this every year. My youngest son, or I'm sorry, my oldest son, Zach, it's what reminds me of him being born, because he was born on March 7th. And I remember sitting there watching March Madness on television, obviously college level, right after bringing him home from the hospital. I think about that every year when this item comes up. What a great investment for the city. $5,000, and our hotels are packed, our restaurants are packed, and people spend money at our stores, and such a small investment for such, I believe, a huge return. And if you've never had the opportunity to go over there and take a look and spend time watching the games, it is truly a great event. And we just want Peoria to hold on to it for as long as possible.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And my final item this evening, Your Honor, and then you won't have to listen to me beyond this for the rest of the evening, probably. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1718-111, hereto attached, a resolution authorizing the approval of a 2-year mower rental agreement with Martin Sullivan, Inc. for 2018 and 2019 for the Department of Tourism and Special Events be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-111 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please. Second. Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. This department, during spring, summer, and fall, maintains about 75 properties, everything from Riverfront Park to various other lots around the city. They need to be maintained and mowed, and we need equipment to do that. This is a 2-year rental agreement at $2,150 per year per machine, so it'll help Mr. McCarty and his crew keep those properties cleaned up.
Other discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, did you mention this went out for bid? There were 2 bids?
It did go out for bid. German Bliss was the other bidder.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And I'll be quiet for a while. Your
Thank
Honor.
you, Commissioner. Commissioner Decker.
Nothing right now, Mayor.
You have to excuse yourself, Commissioner Decker?
No, I'm good. Jeff might, though.
Jeff? Okay, Commissioner Jeffers.
One item, Mr. Mayor, be it resolved by the council of the city of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1718-115 hereto attached, a resolution approving agreement with AMEC Foster Wheeling for closing and capping of monitoring wells on the Bass Pro Development site be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-115 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. This is actually good news. The cost to have these wells capped is relatively low at $6,600 or so, and $6,300. A lot of times we wouldn't bring this forward, but this is important to let you know that over the last many years since the city purchased this site, it is a former landfill. It's a current working landfill site of fly ash from the old Silco power plant. And these monitoring wells have been there just to monitor from the Illinois EPA, et cetera, and all the regulations. And we've spent the last 10 years plus about $12,000 to $14,000 a year to monitor the water. Never been an issue. And so now they're going to allow us to cap it, and it's done. They're satisfied, everything's fine. So this is putting this to rest. It's a great thing. It saved us money from here on out. We're done. I thought last year we would get here, but we're not. So we're here now, and so that's what it is.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jeffers. Commissioner Call.
3 items this evening, Mayor. Be it resolved by the council of the city of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1718-103 hereto attached, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the city of East Peoria, the city of Pekin, the city of Washington, the village of Morton, Tazewell County, and Tazewell County Emergency Telephone System Board regarding advanced funding to the Tazewell County Consolidated Communication, TC3, be hereby approved, and that this resolution number 1718-103, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. As I stated a couple of weeks ago, TC3 is a new entity. It's a state mandate. We have to consolidate the 4 current PSAPs in Tazewell County into 2, and TC3 is a new entity, basically given the charge to make this happen and overseeing it. It was quite clear from the onset there was no funding in place to get it started. So as what the board decided the best avenue to take is to go back to the signatories on the original intergovernmental agreement and seek advance funding. And out of the signatories listed in this resolution, all but the ETSB will be reimbursed the funds as we move forward. So as it stands now, there are 33 agencies that will be receiving a bill. The preliminary budget is about $3.4 million, and that's subject to change. Don't know, honestly, if that's even going to be enough through the first year, but we're hoping so, and we're trying to make all the right decisions to make that happen. But there's no way to get it off the ground without some advance funding, so that is, I know Commissioner Decker, you said you had some questions.
Yeah, just questions, and I'll tell you, I've heard compliments about Commissioner Call on this, that the person that was asking me questions said that they're really happy with your work on this, and happy that the chief and Chief Knapp are part of this. Which side are they on? The
Chief Knapp and the chief are on the operations side.
Operations side, yeah. The couple questions, and I have a list of things I can talk to you about. I'm in full support of this tonight. I think it's the right thing to do. One question is, if communities would choose not to pay the bill, what would happen to them?
So, Dennis, I defer to legal.
they would not have telecommunication services. They put their constituents at great risk. The reality is that it wouldn't happen soon, though. I think we kid ourselves if we think if somebody is delinquent with a bill, that all of a sudden TC3 is going to cease services. It gets a little complicated. I think that after warnings and after waiting and they continue to be delinquent, I think there's probably a cause of action in court for essentially injunctive relief to require them to make a payment.
Okay. So the long process, and I'm not suggesting there's another way. It just sounds like that's something that.
It's painful for everybody. It's unfunded, quite honestly.
The only other thing I've heard is the study that was done has caused some concerns, and one of the concerns that sticks with me is the number of frequencies and I know that's not
It's a
settled.
topic of discussion in the operations side.
Well, I'll tell you, I really appreciate all the work that's going on, because you heard it tonight, our dispatchers in East Peoria are fantastic. You live in a community where we have the best dispatchers around. I work a very stressful job on the fire department, but mine pales in comparison to theirs. And I say that with all sincerity. The work that they do, the dedication they have, sitting at a phone and a computer screen, hearing screams and agony and everything else on the other side, and listening to that, trying to do what they can do while we are rushing there. Once we get there, we can at least start to work to mitigate the problem. But the stress that is behind those phones is enormous. Our dispatchers do an incredible job, and I know Commissioner Call's concerned about this, and everybody on the city council is, and especially them sitting at this table, very concerned that to make sure that it stays that way. We have the best dispatchers around, and I don't want that to change. I don't think anybody in here does. So it's concerning, and I appreciate your hard work on this.
Thank you. Other comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I have Resolution Number 1718-110. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-110 hereto attached, a resolution authorizing the payment of an invoice from Altorfer, Inc. in the amount of $15,717.87 for the repair of Engine 1 after vehicle fire, be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-110 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. This was quite the sight, actually. The crew was down in the Lowe's parking lot when Engine 1 actually caught on fire, so it was put out rather quickly, but unfortunately not before it did some extensive damage. And after a thorough investigation, it was deemed to be no fault of any particular person. It just happened. We had to have the engine repaired, and this is the bill. Chief, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I'm just glad this portion's over. It is on its way, or should be in Wisconsin right now for the other work to be done, so hopefully we'll get it back here before summer, I hope, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Finally, Your Honor, Resolution Number 1718-114. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-114 hereto attached a resolution approving 2017-2018 intergovernmental agreement for mutual aid with Northern Tazewell Fire Protection District be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-114 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. This is similar to what we did last year, or maybe the beginning of this year, but this is retro to August 1st of 2017. It's simply another one-year extension of the contract that we had in place with Northern Tazewell. We contract out their services for a portion of the city that's located out in the Sunnyland area. So this allows us to forward them the money for the services that they provide. And the hopes are to sit down here in the next few months and work out a longer-term contract, so.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on a non-agenda item? Come forward. Welcome.
Hi. As you all know, I'm Robert Brinker. I'm here about chickens. Thank you, Scott, for the article. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. But anyway, I've contacted several of you. I've been to court over it. I missed my last one with Mr. Boyer. I called him before then to let him know we've had conversations over these chickens several times. You know, you guys say that you're trying to attract a certain type of person to here. And I know the last time we were at the city council meeting, that one of you members, I can't remember which one, stated that you thought that a no chicken ordinance would be more in line with attracting people that the city would want. Well, you know what? A week after that meeting, my parents' house was hit by a car. Some kid, just out of nowhere, coming to this neighborhood who happens to be our neighbor's grandson that they're trying to get custody of. Are these the people you're trying to track? I mean, they ran right into my mom and dad's house, pushed the bed that my mom and dad were sleeping in. These people have dogs. I've complained to you guys before about these dogs, officers. They never clean up the dog poo. It stinks to high heaven. Every time I walk out into my backyard, this dog barks. My chickens don't bark. My chickens don't bark back at the dogs. My chickens don't stink. They're fun. They're a blast. They come into my house. Several years ago, a neighbor wanted to build a garage. They got 80% of their backyard is concrete. So they come to me and ask me, said, hey, can we move your chain link fence and we'll put up a nice privacy fence? I said, yeah, sure, okay. We're just going to tear down your chain link and we're going to put up a privacy fence. Well, you know what? They put the privacy fence 3 foot in my yard. I come down here to the city council meeting, and of course I didn't have enough tact that time, and I let people know about it. Well, you know what? They told me it was too late. Too bad. The building permit's already been done up. I was a third shifter. You know, one day I walked out and they say, I know there's a garage that is actually where my property line is. This garage is built on my property line. I mean, I got stumps where they cut down 8 walnut trees. I mean, big walnut trees. They cut them down. It was gone. It's crazy. And you guys are wanting to arrest me over 8 chickens? You know, I got 22 of my neighbors that say, heck yeah, we want your chickens. I got 150 signatures from people through the whole city that say, heck yeah, chickens, 151, 152 because my parents are out of town and I'm sure they'll sign it. I mean, come on, give me a break, please. Really? We've gotten a runaround. I mean, Mr. Boyer told me exactly what he thought about chickens in court. And trust me, I won't say anything about a dog like that. I was offended. That's why I didn't attend the next meeting. And I told him. I called him up and I left a message. I ain't going to be talked like that in a court of law. And sure, my chickens are illegal. But you know what? They're not hurting no one. Nobody. I can't believe it. It's ridiculous. I don't know what else to do, but the chickens are going to stay. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 22 of my neighbors aren't going to complain. And when we started this almost a year ago, and the only reason you people found out is because, well, the kid that hit my mom and dad's house was living in the house that the ordinance officer went to over all these ordinances. I got a neighbor on one side, it's his grandson, and he was living on the house and he's next to me. Really? The garage, the people have moved. They sold the house and moved. Not because of my chickens. They were already gone before the chickens. These are the type of people you guys are kind of trying to attract? I don't want them. Lauren, Oh, that 56 apartment complex, that's as far as I come into the city. Yeah, I'm from Sunnyland. I went to Washington High School. We got annexed into the city. I've never had this problem. I've never locked my doors, ever. I do now. There was 2 break-ins on Crestlawn Sunday. These are the type of people you're trying to attract? The infrastructure down there around Lauren, all that, the traffic, you know, you guys are putting the cart before the horse by building a house down there, building an apartment complex. 56 of them? I mean, the water runoff alone from that into Farm Creek, it's gonna be crazy. And the traffic. The SVU units down there, you guys haven't gotten enough time to get the runoff from the levee district down to the Bass Pro Shops. I was in environmentals for a little bit. You guys need to keep them SVU units running for a couple more years, at least 5. Because that water will make it down there. Eventually, you got the big outlet right here. It'll make it to it. It's got to soak in, but it'll be there. All this runoff from all this concrete you guys poured, that's where it's going.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Jeff?
Good evening. 4 items. First off, Chiefs, great job with the dispatchers. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Decker's comments, often overlooked, and I'm glad I was here tonight for that. Second thing, I know nothing about the Miller Valentine people other than I'm working a deal with somebody in another town, and they know the Miller Valentine people. I'll tell you what, they're good people, and they will do a good job. I didn't know what they were planning. I didn't know it was them on the agenda tonight. I Googled it during the meeting. Don't know about the process, whether or not there should have been more info, but I will say I think you're going to find that they're going to do a heck of a good project for East Peoria. So if they get the awards, I think you'll like it. Moving on, still concerned about some of the bills, still concerned that we haven't done enough. I know you're going to be coming for a sales tax increase. That's everything we hear. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, and I think a lot of the folks I talk to aren't necessarily opposed. We just think you can still do a little bit more on the cutting. Tonight, very, very simple. I mean, another business card was bought tonight from a company in Rockford. Please take 10 minutes to send out a request for proposal to American Speedy Printing and Office Max and get their price on business cards, and then do a memo citywide and just simply say, hey, we've got this $21 rate for business cards. Call up Speedy Printing, call up Office Max, get your business cards. We don't need to spend $60 in Rockford. We don't need to spend the $65 last week in Peoria. Very simple. Take-home automobiles, again, I also understand that that's a tough policy that you guys have had. If I were sitting in your chair, and yeah, I have been there, there'd be 2 things I would establish in a take-home automobile policy overnight. It would be, number 1, a take-home automobile does not leave the city limits. If you don't live in the city limits, you don't take your vehicle home. I don't care what your position is. You know what? That's an incentive for employees to live in the city. Don't reward somebody taking their car out of the city limits. Number 2, if you do live in the city limits, you still only take a car home if you're in an emergency type position. Those are easy policies. Those are smart policies. And they take a couple of seconds to enact. So, that's not really why I'm here. The reason I'm really here is to draw a little history lesson. There are 3 people in the room that remember August of 1998 in terms of a decision. And that's Mayor, former Commissioner Mingus, City Attorney Triggs, and myself. In August of 1998, we created the first city administrator position. Why did we create it in August of 98? We created it because in a 4-month span, 4 of our 6 department heads were retiring. We're at 4 of 6 retiring. I was stepping down as mayor a few months later. Commissioner Davelair at the time, future Mayor Davelair, was coming into the mayor's role, and quite honestly, Chuck had had some pretty significant health problems. And we had concerns about the level of his durability, and he ended up doing great as mayor, but there were some concerns. So we said, we got to do something different. So we went out, we did a national search, and we brought in the first administrator. That then led to the second administrator. We're now on our 3rd administrator. Unfortunately, the administrator position in East Peoria has failed. And I said this 2.5 years ago, when you all hired an organizational study to take a look at the city. Remember that? You hired an organizational study? Remember the recommendation out of the organizational study was to look at a change in the form of government for the city? And I was told, standing at this podium, that it was something the city was going to look at. The city never has looked at it. So instead, What was done was, the decision was we're going to create a strong administrator position. I then stood at this podium again, and I said, a strong administrator cannot work in the commission form of government. You cannot, by ordinance, take power away from commissioners that state statutes give them. And you know what? You've proven that. I can name in almost every one of your departments, I'm not going to because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I can name almost in every one of your departments a specific incident where the administrator wanted to do something personnel-wise. Either eliminate someone, fire someone, or hire somebody, and it was blocked by a single commissioner. That is not what the strong administrator position was supposed to be. The strong administrator was supposed to be in charge of the hiring and firing. That's not what has occurred. So the reality of it is the administrator position and the commission form of government are incompatible. They're incompatible. I've tried for 3 years to get people excited about a change in government. Nobody's interested. I would love to see the 5 of you put it on the ballot. It's a lot easier than citizens going out and getting all the petitions. I'm not going to invest that time in my life. It's not that big of a deal to me. But the reality of it is we need to do something. So you've got a decision coming up. July 1st, you have to...
Time.
Keep going, I've got
Can I have
time.
a couple more minutes? Okay.
You got 1 more minute.
Okay, July 1st, you have to give Mr. Eder notice whether or not his contract renews for another year. One of 3 things can happen. You either renew it, you don't renew it, or, I guess you terminate it. I'm not in favor of getting rid of Mr. Eder tomorrow. I'm not, and I say that with all due respect. First off, there's a 6-month severance pay, so no reason to pay somebody for 6 months. I'd like to see the administrator position eliminated. That will help significantly in the next budget cycle. Make your director of finance your chief administrative officer. Put duties spread across these other extremely capable department heads. And then, if in fact someday we get rid of the commission form of government, then look to bring back a city administrator or a city manager. But until then, the commission form of government and the city administrator are in total conflict with one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Jeff, do you have to leave? Danny, you please feel
I'm
free.
good. You should.
Well, I'm actually going to be kind to you guys tonight. And I'm going to take the other side of the argument because what Mr. Gabelhausen said last week got me to think about what the city has done for us. And I took a look back at property taxes. Over the last 15 years, the city's held our taxes flat or barely up, 1.48% on the tax rate. Very, very minor over the last 15 years. Inflation, though, has gone up 39%, so our dollars eroded an enormous amount. Yet our taxes, the property, the rate has remained pretty constant. I then went and looked at gaming. Over the last 10 years, gaming's gone down $1.8 million. So I think that when you look around the room here, everybody's done a pretty good job of cutting and taking care of business with $1.8 million less. Gaming in 2005 was equivalent to approximately $438 of property tax revenue. Today it's $241. So it's a significant loss to the city. 2013, it looks like property values were devalued by about 5%, which lowered our tax rate even more. And growth in the city has been mostly in this area commercial, so when you see overall valuation of the property in the city, it's mostly commercial, from what I can tell. So overall, even if you raise a half a cent sales tax, pick up $2.5 million, you're already $1.8 million in the hole. So you're not getting a whole lot out of that. And I said with the inflation, you're barely breaking even if you're lucky. So That's my 2 cents for tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else? Saying no one else. Commissioners, Commissioner Decker.
Mayor, all I want to mention is, I know people are concerned about the roads, and they have every right to be. This freeze thaw is not good. It's making things quite a bit worse. If you drive down Camp Street, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We are at kind of a difficult spot right now. The asphalt plants are not open yet. We don't have hot patch to put in those. So therefore, anything we do is even more of a temporary Band-Aid than hot patch is. And with the rain, it's causing the potholes to be even worse. So we do know that it's going on. Obviously, it's going to be a difficult budget year. They're going to try to get to it as quickly as possible, but we're going to kind of have to limp along over the next couple months until we can get the hot patch and actually be able to make the repairs that we need to.
Mr. Densberger.
Nothing further, sir.
Commissioner Jeffers.
I'll mention this. I actually had sent a message to former Public Works Director, Mr. Ferguson, Steve Ferguson, and I said, Steve, this is the first time we've been going towards a flood stage since you retired in September. And I will say, and Dennis, you may comment on this, that we are going from 12 feet to 27, or by the weekend, I'm not sure exactly the top end, but flood stage is 18, and it's a rapid rise. Within less than a week, we go up 10 feet. And that affects us here. You get up low 20s, we can handle it, but any comments at all, I would say be careful. I know that we have plans put in place with bumps and so forth, and we've done some valving and changes to make things much safer around town. But any comment, please?
You are correct. We are beginning that planning process. We had a meeting on it Monday, brought to us by the street foreman, and talking about what they were projecting at that point in time. We sit down. Today, we got 2 emails alone. The first one said we were going to crest at 24. Shortly thereafter, they did some data comparison to what they were actually seeing in River Rise North, and they jumped that immediately up to 27.9, I think is what it's currently gone to. So that's in the process of less than 1 day. They've adjusted those numbers by almost 4 feet. So I know we're watching every single thing that goes on, and they're making sure that they get everything we can in place to make sure that, we minimize that impact as best we can.
And record's what, 30, 31 feet, so this is historic type flood when you get up near 30. And if it quits raining, we'll be okay. If we get our snow, that would slow things down versus rain, which runs off immediately. But just to make a note of that, because there may be some traffic detours perhaps. Expect that and be careful, and the roads itself and the condition, just be careful. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Call.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I want to clarify my criticism of that housing development, since Commissioner Decker pointed out that it wasn't dropped in our lap. We get our agendas about 4 or 5 p.m. on Fridays. I was in TC3 meetings from 9 to 4 on Friday, at which time I had to make up my day job Friday night into Saturday. I was in Chicago from Monday morning until about 20 minutes before this meeting. So with that being said, I do take exception to that comment. Here's what I'm referring to, and I'll make it very, very just pointed. So this housing development did what he stated was true. It was public property down here that was being proposed on. So of course we were in tune, somewhat in tune. I still think some of the information was held out, and that's why you saw a change in the 2-week between the support and the non-support of that project. I look at Mr. Kaufman. That guy's an example to me. That's private property. Here seeking a special use. But the difference is, he reached out to make sure that everybody knew well in advance what he was seeking. That was my point. To have it show up on an agenda item with no details, I just struggle with that. So that was my point. That's why I was so critical of it. With that being said, Mr. Gablehausen's already departed, but I would like to state on the record publicly that I reached out to Mr. Eder and I did discuss take-home vehicles. So I'll share with everybody what my proposition was, because obviously it went nowhere. My humble opinion, city administrator either gets a take-home vehicle, he prefers a stipend. That's fine. Stipend it is. Outside of that, patrol officers that live in the city, I think they should take them home. I think it gives the city a sense of security. It's a positive message in my humble opinion. And then the chiefs in both the police and the fire department for obvious reasons. If there's some type of emergency, they have to be there. So that was my proposition. Aside from that, I don't think there should be any take-home vehicles. There should be pool vehicles for people to utilize when they show up in their own vehicle to start their daily job performance. So I just want to go on record. I've discussed it, don't know where it went, hasn't come back to me, so just thought I'd share that.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I actually agree with almost everything you just said about take-home vehicles, Commissioner Call. The only caveat I would add is there are a few other employees that do have on-call duties that respond from time to time, and I think those would need to be taken into consideration. Other than that, I agree with what you've just said.
Well, it sounds like we have three who want to look at that proposal, because I certainly have hummed that tune for many years. Okay, anybody else? Well, what's it going to do tonight, Doug? Doug's the best weatherman we have. Ice.
Yeah, sounds bad.
Okie dokie. Is there a motion to adjourn, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn until Tuesday evening, March 6th, 2018 at 6 p.m.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
We are adjourned. You know.